Welcome to FarmTek session 6, the keys to motivation. A lot of times people say, wow, if I could just get motivated, I would do more and be more. We've got to look at motivation. We've got to look at why is it important for us to really explore that as leaders, and what are we doing to create an environment that stimulates and influences motivation. A lot of times people say, I want to understand why people do the things that they do. What is it that gets them momentum? What is the driving force behind all their actions? And what are some of the causes of some of the actions? If we look at motivation as leaders, we're trying to, again, increase momentum to do things, to achieve things, to do more and be more than people ever thought they could be. And so I always like to ask some questions of you. What gets you up in the morning? Are you jumping out of the bed, excited to go to work? Are you excited for the day? Are you excited to be able to achieve goals that you have set for yourself? Or maybe what are some of those things that keep you awake at night? What are some of those fears? What are those things that keep you from doing the things that you want to do? Is there other ways to motivate yourself? A lot of times people will say, well, I'm motivated by money. Well, money only motivates for about 90 days. Then you want more money. What is it that's giving you momentum? Is there ways to motivate your team? A lot of times people say, how do I get people to get engaged? What do I need to do to help them stay active? And how does your organization perform better? And ultimately, what's your balance? When we start to look at balance and we look at kind of things that are going to be important for people, we talk about this idea that people will get momentum based on different things. For example, I'm going to ask you right now, are you ready to go skydiving? What would it take for you to go skydiving? I want you to be able to, go out and jump out of a perfectly great plane. And I want you to be able to free fall for about a minute. And then I want you to pop the chute. And, I want this to happen. How many of you are automatically saying to yourself, oh, I would love to skydive. Yes, let's go this afternoon. Or how many are like, oh, no way. I do not ever want to jump out of a plane that's perfectly flying well. When we talk about balance is we talk about some people have different motivators to do certain things. So if you have a fear of jumping out of a plane, maybe you're scared of heights, maybe you have a fear of falling, and you say, no matter what you do, Lisa, I am not going to jump out of that plane. I can't motivate you. But if I have somebody who says, you know what, I'm just really want a sense of achievement. I want to be able to say I did it. There's nothing you can give me that's going to tell me I'm just going to go. I'm just going to try it. That's another level of balance. Some people say, Lisa, if you gave me $1 million, maybe I'd think about it. That's why people went on to Fear Factor. They had overcome their fears, motivated their fears because they were given some large sum of money. But what is your balance? Everybody's motivated just a little bit differently. Some people are motivated by words of praise, words of affirmation. Hey, I really liked how you did this. I really appreciate that you did that this way. I liked how you talked to that customer. You were problem solving. Just those words of affirmation can be a motivator for people. Other people might need a little gift. Hey, I give you a $5 coupon, or maybe, again, here's a gift certificate to your favorite restaurant, or, hey, here's a bonus trip, or here's an incentive. If you get this, this status will give you 5% raise, whatever that is. They may need a little gift. Some people might want some quality time with the boss. Hey, if you're able to do this, I want to touch base with you 5 minutes. Tell me what's working. What could we do as improvements? That's quality time. Some people want somebody to help them. I'm going to be motivated if you're coming in and helping me, and you're helping me work through things. And that's, of course, acts of service. So just realizing that people have different ways in which they're motivated, different valances. What I might be motivated to do something just because I want the sense of achievement, where Jill next to me needs a couple dollars to be able to do that. Or again, Joe next to her says, well, I need to be able to be threatened with being fired before I do that. Just realize that motivation is different. And instead of asking, how can I motivate people? I want you to ask, how can I create conditions within which people will motivate themselves? Because again, it's hard for us to motivate somebody else. People do what they're supposed to do when they know what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be doing it, and why they're doing it. Those are key motivators. but we also can motivate using emotion. Again, emotion often causes motion. We do things based on our emotions. Maybe we want to avoid punishment, so we do something. Maybe we want to have a sense of achievement and people applaud us for what we're doing, so we do something. Emotion causes motion. And the more engaged we are in the workplace, the more motivated we are. So I always like to do a quick check-in. Are you involved at work? Are you enthusiastic about your role? Are you committed to work? Because as a manager and as a leader, you are setting the tone for your team. Now, data, of course, comes out of Gallup research, and Gallup constantly is looking at how many people are engaged, what's happening, what's going on. There's a huge amount of people that are not engaged. You're looking at 51% of people just show up, they do what they need to do, bare minimum, and then they go home. And then you have 17.5% of people who are actively disengaged. What actively disengaged means is I'm going around complaining, whining, and basically talking about how my life and my job are so miserable. And I'm trying to get other people to be actively disengaged with me. But we want to look at how do we shift this? And many companies send out engagement surveys. And when you look at engagement surveys, there's 12 different things that people assess. And the more you can say yes to these questions, the higher the likelihood you have an engaged staff. So when you're looking at these questions, the big thing is, I know what's expected of me. People do what they're supposed to do if they know why they're doing it, how to do it, how they're being measured, what they're being critiqued on. And not just telling people in the first day, okay, here's how we're going to, measure your success. Give people key performance indicators all the time. Here's where we're going today. Here's our goal for the week. How are you doing? Here's how I'm judging you. Just again, when I said at the very beginning in one of these sessions, hey, if you do a great job, I'm going to give you $1,000. If you do an average job, you get to keep your job. But if you do a poor job, I'm firing you. You automatically know what is it that makes it great, what makes it average, and what makes it poor. So let people know your expectations. But then also people will say, you know what, I need to have the materials and equipment to be able to do my job right. If materials aren't available, maybe if equipment keeps breaking down, that disengages people really quickly. Like, I can never get this thing to work. I can never count on it to be available when I need it to get available. That becomes a big demotivator. So looking at, do you have the materials? Do you have the right materials? Is the structure set up efficiently, safely? Is the equipment in working order? That's going to help with engagement. Also, ask yourself, am I doing this as a leader? Am I doing the best I can every single day? Or are you coming in and just putting in half time? Are you trying to do your best every day? And one of the big things that people talk about is, if it doesn't matter if you win or lose, but if you are putting in your 100% effort, then you can judge and say, okay, I know I did the best I could today. And basically, you see in the past 7 days, I've received recognition or praise for good work. A lot of times people are like, well, they just know. This is why you got to coach your superstars. Let people know when they're doing things well. And you can never say it enough, because people always want to know, how am I doing? And they're motivated. And if you constantly talk about all the things that they're not doing well, that's going to be a demotivator. So look and find the things that they're doing well, give them recognition at least once a week. And again, people are like, well, gosh, that's a lot of hand-holding. No, it's not hand-holding. People want to be reinforced that the behavior that they're doing is correct, valid, and impactful. My supervisor or somebody at work seems to care about me as a person. This one is huge. People want to have somebody who acknowledges them, who appreciates them, and who understands them. And it just happens to be essential that they feel their supervisor is that person. You have somebody who's encouraging your development. You have ways to share your opinions, and it seemed to matter to people. The mission or the purpose of the company makes me feel like my job is important. How are you impacting others? My associates or employees are committed to doing quality work. The more that I focus and I'm surrounded by people who are doing quality, the more I want to do quality. If I'm surrounded with people who are just like, good enough, that's gonna minimize quality. I have a best friend at work. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not here to make friends. I'm just here to get stuff done. Research shows that if you have one person at work that you consider a strong friend, you're much more engaged. And talking about progress, we always talk about, well, we have to do performance reviews, and we do performance reviews once a year. Well, research says do it every 6 months. You're like, whoa, that's a lot. But it's not a lot if you're keeping track and you're letting people know and you're doing daily noting and just saying, hey, here's where you're at. How are you doing? Here's what's happening. People want to feel as though they have an accountability partner. We're much more motivated if we have somebody who's, again, checking on progress. And it's not micromanaging. It's, here's where we're at. How can I support you? What do you need yet? Here's where I see you're growing. How do you see you're growing? What do we need to do? And again, if people feel as though in the past year they've had opportunities to work, to learn, to grow, they're much more engaged. When you're looking also at Gallup, again, people want to be able to have someone talk about their progress. They want to be committed to quality work. And if you're getting some of these processes where people are like, no, I'm not engaged, then again, they disconnect and they're not creating an environment that is motivating. Because all of human behavior, no matter what you do, is goal directed. People have a goal and they either want to achieve that goal and feel a sense of accomplishment, or they want to be a part of a team that is important to them, or they want to have this power of self and discipline and decision making. Or again, they want to avoid punishment. So all behavior is focused on a goal. So I want to feel as though I've achieved the goal. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I want to be on a team that's doing what I like to do. I want to have a sense of accomplishment. I want to feel as though I'm a part of the decision-making process. And I want to make sure that I'm doing something so I don't get in trouble, or I might stop doing something because maybe I will get in trouble. It's all goal-directed. And when you're talking about motivation, one of the biggest things that you have control over as a leader is our tone of voice. Our voices truly impact motivation. If we're talking to somebody in a non-judgmental way, if we're asking questions like, help me understand, here's what I'm seeing that's going on. What were your thought processes? What could you have done differently? That adult voice helps create a culture that says, hey, I'm not getting in trouble. I'm getting ways to continually improve and achieve. I'm being asked for my input on how I can do things differently. Again, if you get into a parent voice and start saying, well, you have to do it because I said so, or why'd you do it this way, or why do you keep doing it? That parent voice will demotivate somebody very quickly and put them into child tone. And that's where they start to say, well, it wasn't my fault. It was this department's fault. And I didn't have everything I needed. And they get into kind of that victim mentality. So watch your voice, your tone, as you're speaking to individuals. And again, not constantly talking about all the things that they're not doing well. What is working? And realize, again, based on our personality styles, we might be motivated very differently. When we took a disc and we looked at what your dominant style was or your preferred style, if you had a D or you took the colors and you were an orange, they're motivated by results. I want to just get stuff done. Let's make it happen. I don't want to sit around talking about it. Let's just do it. The dominant style, very direct, and it's about getting results. The I style or the blue style, if you took a colors inventory, is all about relationships. I'm motivated with relationships. I'm motivated by building relationships, understanding people, understanding where they're coming from, what their role is, and again, very interactive. People who are an S style or maybe a gold style, if you took a colors inventory, they're very much driven by ultimately the process. And they're motivated by recognition, feeling appreciated. Your S's are worker bees. They're the ones that, again, want the feedback on how things are going and what's working. So again, they're focused on really that how to, and they're motivated by getting some recognition for what's working. And if you are a C style, or of course a green style, if you took the colors inventory, that C style, motivated by research and best practices and data and continuous improvement, and they're motivated to do things that are seen as highly credible. They're motivated by people who do their homework and know what's going on. So realizing what motivates you, but also realizing not everybody's motivated the same way you are. Some are motivated just to get stuff done. Some are like, no, let's do it the right way. Some are like, no, let's just try it. And some are just like, you know what, how do you feel about it? Realizing we have different motivators. And when you look at different motivators, we have kind of a pyramid. The first step of motivation of staying engaged is, do people feel as though they have their physiological needs being met? This is where we talk about paychecks. This is where we talk about benefits. This is where basically the main thing that is a motivator is, what's my salary? What am I getting paid? Again, if it's not competitive, people may leave you for $1 more somewhere else. Or they might, say, well, I'm going to leave for 10 cents more an hour. If people are just basically motivated by that salary, we've got to make sure that we're creating an environment where people feel as though they are being rewarded financially for what they're doing. Again, money is only a motivator for about 90 days. So you've got to start moving up this ladder. The first thing is the pay sufficient? The second thing, people are motivated if they feel pay is efficient. Do I have job security? Am I constantly worrying about losing my job? Or am I scared I'm going to get hurt on the job? Do I not have safe equipment to utilize? People want to feel job security. They want to feel as though they're safe going to work. The third then is, once they feel as though they've got a good paycheck, they're safe at work, then it's about the team. They start getting motivated by collaboration. They get motivated by working together. They get motivated by giving input on what's working, what's not working. And when they get that team collaborative approach and they feel connected and engaged with their team, that they can open up and share ideas without somebody saying, we tried that 20 years ago and it didn't work. They get to what we consider self-esteem. And this is your performance. This is where we're looking at performance evaluations. They want to know, how am I doing? Am I getting respected from other people for what I'm doing? And when you get to that level of self-actualization, that's where you say, I love my job. I love what I'm doing. I feel rewarded, appreciated, connected. I'm 100% fully engaged and invested in this organization. That's where you want people to get to. But again, researchers will say people want interesting work. They want to feel appreciated. They want job security. They want, of course, some rewards. But be careful, because if we use too many rewards, then people just start expecting it. So we want extrinsic rewards to actually become intrinsic motivation. Extrinsic is stuff on the outside. I'm giving you stuff to motivate you. Intrinsic is my own internal drive. I want to be able to be better and do better and be more. And again, be careful that you give and use rewards in an effective way. And again, not just being lack of genuineness in your appreciations. And there's a philosophy that oftentimes people say, well, I'm going to motivate with a carrot or a stick. They can extinguish intrinsic motivation. If I'm constantly saying, if you do this, then you'll get this, they are now relying on me to give them something. It can diminish their performance. It can crush some of their creativity. It can really encourage people to be unethical. And it just sometimes can foster short-time thinking. So carrots and sticks are good for some things, but if you're really wanting people to get creative and innovative and really problem solve, you want to move away from that, and you want to get into what we call motivation 2.0. Motivation 2.0 basically says people want to feel autonomy. They want to feel a desire to direct their lives. One of the biggest ways that manufacturing organizations looks at autonomy is, how can I set up workstations? Can people set up the workstation the way they use it as efficient for themselves? I have some organizations that say, you know what, you guys figure out the schedule. I need coverage from this time to this time. I need this many people here. You guys decide who's going to be where. Autonomy, again, feel as though they have a direction of their lives. Mastery of skill, this is where you're trying to, again, help people get better and better at something that matters. Are we giving people training? Are we giving them enough training? Are we giving them sustainable training? Are we helping them find successes, small successes? People want to feel that mastery. If they feel like they're doing a good job at it, they're going to keep doing a good job at it. If they feel as though they're not doing so well, then they might start to think, oh, maybe this isn't the right fit for me. But giving people training, giving people encouragement, helping them get to mastery of skill is going to be a big motivator. When you're looking at your onboarding programs, a lot of times people think, well, you better be able to get it within the first 2 days. And if you don't, you could probably quit. People aren't going to get it the first 2 days. I always like to say, give yourself 90 days to really start to master some things. And you may not master everything else. But the other thing as a leader, don't judge the new person based on somebody's 30-year experience. Sometimes somebody will say, well, they should be able to do this, this, and this. Well, you've been doing it for 30 years. Do you expect them to be able to be at that level? So realize, here's the milestones or the benchmarks for 30 days. Here's the benchmarks where you should be at 60 days. Here's where the benchmarks are for 90 days. Here's a year. Here's 5 years. Here's 10 years. Again, helping people see that mastery of skill takes some time. But the biggest underlying issue for motivation is purpose. People want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. How are they impacting others? How are they impacting their community? How are they working with other people? When you get to these levels, you start to look at your self-direction, creating meaningful work, making something that's making a difference. And they're all interconnected and interrelated. So again, we're kind of moving through these as a way to just say, I want to get insight. I want to be able to move through this and connect. We talk about purpose and purpose-driven organizations. When everybody knows what the purpose is, people will say, okay, is what I'm doing right now helping get to this vision, or is it hurting? And I give an example of Tom's, because Tom's is an organization that kind of started this whole buy one, get one, this whole option of encouragement. It was built to basically say, I want to provide benefits for employees, customers, shareholders, but I also want to help somebody in a developing nation. So the purpose was big enough for people to buy into this. You know what? I work for Tom's, I do this, and I realize I'm making a difference somewhere else. And focusing on that becomes your why. So there's an exercise that people have done with their teams, and it's the what's your why sentence. And you basically give out an index card and you ask people, what's your sentence? What is your why? Why do you work here? Why is this important to you? What's the key? And when you do your why, why is this work important to the organization as well? And how is it impacting our ability to achieve? And the big question is, who would miss us if we didn't exist? That's a big motivator. Some people will say, well, here's my sentence. I taught children how to read, or, I invented a device that made everybody's life easier. That's your why. Why FarmTek? Why do what you do? Again, talking about this idea of people want to know the why. This was an organization that we worked with, and they were making harnesses all day, and they wanted to know the bigger purpose. They had efficiency issues. They had, of course, quality issues. But all we did was put a picture of the actual vehicle that these harnesses were going in on their boards, and people started to realize, oh, I'm making a harness for a fire truck. I better make sure I do this right, or somebody's house could burn down. People know that a little bit more. So again, these pictures we posted on people's boards to say, hey, you're making an impact in somebody's life. And talking about, what is your organization's purpose? What are they doing? Are we aligned with the purposes? If I feel as though my purpose is different than the organization's, we're going to have dysfunction. When you look at mastery of skill, again, talk with your individuals. What are some strengths that they have? How can they become 1% better? Maybe what are some opportunities? How can they become 1% better? What are you doing that's improving the bottom line? How are your strengths helping? How are your strengths hurting? What would you do different? What's working? How is life different now that you have this skill? Coaching your staff. And it doesn't have to be an hour session. Just take 5 minutes with somebody. Hey, is this helping or hurting right now? Persistency is key. People don't do what they fear. This is a picture of my dad who basically hurt enough that he had to learn the computer. He currently is an insurance agent, and he, again, had to do all of his testing and certifications via computer. He couldn't just go anywhere and do paper and pencil anymore. So he basically said, well, I need to make some changes. I need to learn how to use this computer because my business is changing. And if I don't learn how to use this and I don't change, I'm going to be out of business. But he was scared of it. He didn't want to touch it. He thought he was going to hit the wrong button and delete everything. And, he started to be like, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I can do this. People resist things. If they're scared, it's not going to work. So teach people things in chunks. Let them practice. Celebrate the small steps. We were so excited when he called it a mouse instead of a rabbit. He called it a rabbit for at least a month. It's like, oh my God, it's a mouse, Dad. And he figured it out. But again, help people go into change. Help be support. What are the resources for them? And what are the autonomy, the expectations? I have worked with students before in a human services program and basically said, hey, we have a $10,000 grant to help us educate people on the risks of underage drinking. We have $10,000 to be able to reduce our underage drinking tickets on our campus. What do you guys want to do? The clear expectation was we needed to reduce underage drinking tickets, and we had $10,000 to do it. And I basically set a standard that said, I would love for us to develop a program that other schools could use, that we could scale and they could try so that we could reduce underage. They took that project and they ran with it because they had the autonomy. We gave them the expectation. We set the standard high. They all took shared leadership. They created a project. They had their own flexibility. They focused on what was getting done. And again, they were able to achieve some success. They're standing in front of a quilt that they made where they had individuals create what they were doing to stay above the influence. And they were asked to speak at the Capitol. So they went and spoke about their project. So again, they grew because I gave them some autonomy. Realizing that this coaching wheel is key in motivation. Be supportive. What's the topic that needs to happen? What's the impact of it? What's the plan we're putting into action? How committed are you to make this work? What are some things that are going to get in the way? And what do we need to do to make this happen? So I'd encourage you to really think about, what is your engagement? What are some of your strategies? You've been given a handout and it gives you some tools for supervisors. Use those tools. What are some things that you could do to increase that? And when you're able to focus on creating an environment that's motivating, we will see more intrinsic motivation and people moving towards a process of improvement in themselves. So thanks for being here. Look forward to sharing more in upcoming sessions.